So I take the odd requests here and there. And I've been trying to make sure that I cover all 30 teams, which is a challenge. Challenge. Even with me trying to do between 2 and 3 videos a day, it's a challenge to cover every team in the league. Unless it's one of my 30 teams sort of looks. And I try to do as many of those as I can because I know that way I'm covering everybody in the league. So if you're a fan of whoever, it's all right. So he's discussed my team, whether it's Carolina, Columbus, Washington, Winnipeg, doesn't matter. Kings. Somebody requests that I talk about the Kings today. All right. Kings are a tough case right now. Kings are a tough case in a lot of ways. Jonathan Quick's out. They're saying if they make the playoffs, he might be back for the playoffs. That sounds bad. Peter Budaj can steal the odd game here and there during the regular season. Peter Budaj it's very doubtful he'd be able to do it in the postseason. And the Kings right now, they're digging themselves into a hole. And speaking of a hole, Boston's down 5-1. That's why I'm watching Columbus and Ottawa. Oof. And yeah, tomorrow night they're in New York, and they're on a 3-game losing streak right now. Now, when you look at their team, the first thing that stands out when you look at the stats is that Jeff Carter's having a fantastic year. 24 goals, 41 points, 46 games. He's having a great year. The next highest scorer beneath him has 25 points. That's Kopitar, and he's only got 4 goals. When a Kopitar was drafted, there were a lot of Canucks fans that were upset. I remember we drafted Luc Bourdon in number 9, and then Kopitar went number 10. And, of course, Bourdon tragically passed away a few years after he was drafted, and we never got to see how good he was going to be as a defenseman. But the argument was always we should have drafted Kopitar. And Kopitar has earned the salary he has. Now, I'm saying that past tense because he is currently at a $10 million salary cap for the next forever. I see here it shows till 22-23. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 7 seasons that I see on Cap Friendly at $10 million per season. He's not going anywhere. Second on Cap Friendly is Dustin Brown, $5.875 million for the next 6 years, including this one. And Brown has 6 goals, 21 points in 44 games, and a -10 rating, which stands out when Pearson has a +10, Toffoli has a +14. Stands out. Gaborik has a $4.875 million cap hit over the next 5 years, including this one. So there's a problem that the Kings have right there, in that the Kings, their current cap space is $3.5 million. At the deadline, their cap space will be $6.8 million. But they have problems because the top 4 guys, and Jeff Carter's in between there. Jeff Carter has 6 years left, including this one, makes $5.272 million for that period of time. Of those 4 guys, the only one with any market value is Carter, because Carter's the only one that's playing well of those 4 guys. Gaborik currently, he's not even on the first page of their scoring. He's played 24 games and he has 9 points. Gaborik's done. Gaborik as a top tier player in the NHL is done. They are stuck with that cap hit unless they buy him out. He's 34, so it's not a cap hit that's going to kill them. He's not 35 and over when he signed a contract. Those ones don't come off at all. And then the other problem they have is at the end of this year, Toffoli's a restricted free agent. Not a big deal. $3.25 million. He'll probably stay about the same. Tanner Pearson at $1.4 million RFA. Probably going to get a raise. Tanner Pearson has 24 points in 44 games right now. Is their second highest goal scorer with 14. He's probably going to want a raise on that $1.4 million. Nick Shore's RFA, not a problem there. And Andrioff is RFA, no problem there. And Devin Setaguchi is 29 and is a redemption story. Makes 575 grand. He's UFA at the end of this year. Setaguchi currently has 9 points in 39 games. I can't see him getting much of a raise at the end of the year, but he would get a raise. 575 grand is if it's not league minimum, is damn close. Drew Doughty, $7 million a year. That's fine. Drew Doughty has been fantastic. He's always fantastic. He's one of the best defensemen in the league, hands down, no questions asked. Alec Martinez, $4 million a year for 5 years, including this one. I can say, having watched some Kings games this year, Martinez, full value, fantastic player, not an issue. Jake Muzzin, $4 million for 4 years, including this one. Again, not an issue, no problem. Matt Green at $2.5 million. He's 33. He's got this year and next year. Matt Green's potentially a guy who could end up in Vegas. Played 26 games, 2 points, 19 penalty minutes. And I don't necessarily mean the expansion draft. I mean a guy who Vegas may call and trade for. Braden McNabb, $1.7 million. Tom Gilbert, $1.4 million. He's UFA at the end of this year. I can't see him being re-signed. Derek Forbort has absolutely developed, finally. Took a long time, but at 24, he is now a bona fide defenseman in the NHL. 650 grand this year and next year, and that's a bargain. And in net, Budaj makes only 600 grand in his UFA at the end of this year, and that's a bargain. But that's it. The Kings have problems. Like you look at, I'm going to go back to the first page of their scoring here. Martinez, 25 points in 46 games, has as many points as Kopitar. He's played 6 extra games, but he and Doughty are both tied with Kopitar for points. And Dustin Brown is 4 below them. Brown, that 21 points. I mean, he's fallen off a cliff offensively. Dustin Brown is not the player he was when they won a cup. Yeah, this year he's got 21 points in 44 games, but honestly, that's the best season he's had offensively since 12-13. So this is his best offensive season in 4 years, points-wise, because he only had 28 points in 82 games last year, 27 in 82 games the year before, and 27 in 79 games the year before that. His goal totals are going to come right in around he's had 11 the last 2 years. It's going to come right in around that. But he should be able to eclipse the 30-point mark. So, good for him. I guess. But he is a shadow of the player who was scoring between 50 and 60 points every year up until 2012. And it makes a huge difference for the team. And then pulling the captaincy off of him, and keeping him, that's weird to me. Like, for me, if you strip the captaincy, and I know it happened in San Jose too, but if you strip the captaincy from a guy and you're not going to trade him, I'm not sure how that's going to work to the benefit of your team. Worked out fine for San Jose because everybody there was professional and cool with it. But on some level, I wonder if it bothers Dustin Brown that he had the captaincy taken away from him. It would bug me. I know I'm not an NHL player, but on some level, it would bug me. And Dustin, at this point, he's 32. He's played over 900 NHL games. He's probably never going to get that offensive game back to where it was. But they're still paying him a lot of money for a long time. The problem with the Kings is this. Right now, they sit outside a playoff spot. Right now, they sit behind the Canucks. And for the standings right now, let me take a look. The Canucks actually right now are in a good spot, which terrifies me. But this is about the Kings. Terrifies me because I don't know how they got here. I don't get it. The West is just kind of lacking right now. But the Kings are 5-5 in their last 10, but they've lost their last 3, and they lost them all in regulation, and that's a big no-no in today's NHL. At least lose in overtime. They're 2 games over 500. They're 2 games below fake 5, or 2 games below real 500. 2 games above fake 500. They haven't been able to make gains on Calgary, although they're 3 points back at Calgary with 3 games in hand. They've got one game in hand on Vancouver. They're 2 points back of Vancouver, but they've got more regulation or overtime wins. So where this really splits for me is this. Budai's been good. Budai's been very good. And I don't think that the Kings are going to blame Budai for them being where they are. But the playoffs, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough because they have to be able to win against the other California teams regularly. They have to go on a little bit of a run. That being said, I mean, you look at the teams ahead of them, like St. Louis is kind of in the crapper. Calgary's kind of in the crapper. Vancouver's been very good lately, but how long can they keep that up? Winnipeg's behind them. They're not going anywhere. Dallas, Arizona, and Colorado aren't going anywhere. The West is not good for the most part, and it favors the Kings. But in a playoff series, with the team they have, without Jonathan Quick in net, this is a team that could get swept. This is a team where they could really, really struggle. And that's coming from a guy who I'm impartial in terms of the Kings in general. Of the three teams in California, they're the one I dislike the least. Put it that way. And this jersey is still one of the most beautiful jerseys ever worn, even though it's a ripoff of the Lakers. But the Kings are going to have problems because even after this year, let's say they make the playoffs, they go to the second round, and there's all kinds of optimism. Those cap hits that go on for that long for those players are still going to be there. It's going to make it hard for them to sign free agents, bring guys in, and improve the team. They may be able to find somebody to eat one of those contracts. They may. They may be able to find somebody to take Gabrick's contract. But they're going to pay for it. They're going to have to give up a prospect to have that happen or a draft pick. The Kings as a team right now are in flux. They won two Stanley Cups. They're full value for both Stanley Cups. The first one was won by Jonathan Quick. The second was won by the Kings. But they're in that in-between spot where you have to ask yourself, are they going to get back to being contenders, or do they have to kind of retool it? And unlike Vancouver, where they said, well, we're just going to retool because we can get to be contenders, I think the Kings, with a couple of small moves, could get back to being contenders. But who do you move? How do you move them? And who do you target? Their blue line's very good. Their forward group is... their goaltending is good enough to get them to the playoffs. But without Jonathan Quick, it doesn't get them anywhere in the playoffs. So let me know in the comments below what you think. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you're browsing through. And how do you fix the Kings? Because the Kings are in that precarious spot. And if they were in the East, I think they'd be buried. I mean, if you look at, okay, they have 48 points in 46 games. If they were in the East, they'd be they'd be tied with Detroit with one game in hand. They'd be behind New Jersey, Florida, Carolina, Philly. And that doesn't even get them in the playoffs. They have to then pass Toronto to get in the playoffs. So if they were in the East, they'd be dead. Dead in the water. To give an example, the last place team in the East right now is New York. They were 46 points in 44 games. 46 points in 44 games would slot the Islanders 1 point behind Dallas with 4 games in hand. 2 points behind Winnipeg with 5 games in hand. So that's the difference between the East and the West. So the Kings, if you're a fan, you have a chance to make the playoffs because the West is pretty bad right now. But I'm not optimistic because let's say they got in and they got the second wild card spot. Congratulations, you're playing the Minnesota Wild. You're out in 4. The Wild are absolutely on a mission right now. You're out in 4. So, again, let me know what you think in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I will talk to you all again very, very soon.